Because when you get the gap, that I know that's what you're buying, and I can call you out. I can challenge you. I can say, what do you mean the price is too high? What do you mean you want that feature? It's like, well, you don't have this feature. You don't need that feature. You told me, boom,
right.
boom, boom, boom. How does that feature have anything to do with that? Right. That's how you become a sales influencer versus an order taker.
I want to welcome you to my sales podcast, where we have one focus and one focus only. That is helping you, the sales community, and sales leaders create more conversations with more qualified buyers, ultimately leading to improving your sales productivity and closing more deals. Each show, you will hear from sales leaders, practitioners, and influencers to help you find, engage, and connect with more buyers. I'm Mario Martinez Jr., and you're now listening to the Selling with Social Sales Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with my man, Keenan. I'm positive that you've heard this guy here out on LinkedIn or on social, and I'm super pumped to welcome him to Selling with Social. You're in for a real treat. Why? Oh, man, he's just released Gap Selling, and that book is hot, 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 hot. Keenan, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, baby. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'm pumped that you're here, bro. And those of you that don't know him, he is actually the CEO of A Sales Guy Consulting and also best-selling author. And bro, tell me, this is now the second book that you've released, right?
Truth. Third in the works.
Third in the works already? Man, I got to tell you, man, I want to be like you. You know why?
Nope.
Because I can't even get the first one out.
It's work, baby. It's work.
It's work. It's hard work. But you know what? My pride and joy here is the podcast. So I'll keep pumping out podcasts for the listeners. So listen, man, everybody knows you've been on your own with the Sales Guy, CEO and president. They know you've released a couple of books here. The latest one, Gap Selling, which we're going to spend some time talking about. Do me a favor, just give a little background about yourself so our listeners know who you are. For those being introduced the first time, we've got sales leaders, we've got sales people, we've got marketing leaders and sales enablement folks who are listening in. So give us a little background about yourself, and then I got a special question for you, bro. A special question.
I mean, I don't know what to say, right? I'm never good at this. Like, I've been teaching people how to sell, managing salespeople, running sales teams for 23, 24 years, all different industries. It's just in my blood, you know. It's what I do, and I love it to death, and we can make a huge difference because selling, I mean, everybody's going to know how to sell. It's the best skill in the world.
So the good news is we're not talking to somebody who's a wannabe sales influencer, but someone who actually is a sales guy himself.
Yeah. Look, this whole idea of sales influencer. Look, let me tell people how this started. I never set out to be a flipping sales influencer or whatever, right? I just did my job really well, liked what I did, and in 3 years, I went from basically never having sold professionally in my life, and I was a model in Miami, South Beach, working with Tommy Hilfiger, to running, 3 years later, running a $300 million line of business for a telecom company in Denver here with 125 people nationwide. And they sold managed modem, which means they sold the dial-up numbers or ports for dial-up internet, right? Well, that stuff went away.
You think?
And, I'm telling you, I can't promise, but I'm doing my best. And so stuff happens and went under. So me trying to get my next gig as an outsider coming in without someone moving me around was almost impossible because I was competing against guys that were 45, 40, 50, 55 years old who had been doing it for 20 years at that same level, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, after going through that a couple times and having to stalling out and actually have to step back and working my way up, I was like, I'm done with this. And I started a blog in 2009. 2009, 10 years ago, I started a blog. And I blogged 712 days in a row. And the whole purpose of that was I thought, look, if I ever find myself needing a job again, I'm not going to rely on some crazy recruiter or sending my resume to me. All I have to do is go on my blog and say, hey, guys, you've been following me for a while. I'm changing gigs. And I thought if I had 200-300 people that read me regularly, that would be a conduit into a new gig. Well, fast forward 712 days, 2 years into it, And people were calling me, asking me to be a consultant, asking me to help fix stuff. And then like things like sales magazines were saying, calling my blog the top 10 blogs. And I was putting on lists, top marketing in sales influencers. So everybody else was calling me that. All I want to do is get a job. That was my only goal, just get a job. Yes. So I never really look at myself as that. It was never what I set out to do.
You know, it's funny actually when you hear some stories of people that I respect in the industry, such as yourself, someone who clearly understands selling, and you've got a methodology, and you're really showing people how to be able to sell better. When you hear someone's story where it's like you didn't try, right? So it's kind of like my story. I was asked to speak at LinkedIn's annual users conference when I was the VP of sales in the seat. Mm-hmm. And when you speak at one of LinkedIn's conferences, in front of thousands of their customers, 3 months later, it was like I was out on my own. I'm like, wait a minute, what just happened here, right? I didn't ask to do that. It just happened. I love those stories, man, but what you did was super freaking brilliant, bro, because you thought about this. Well, wait a minute, I'm going to start publishing content. But the byproduct was people started coming to you now to ask you for assistance and support. So that was that thought leadership there. You said something, though, that I had no idea about. So you were a model under Tommy Hilfiger for the brand?
I wasn't under contract for him, but I did shows him. Watch, you want to get a chuckle? Hold on.
For those of you listening in right now, Keenan just walked off the set, is grabbing something so you can bring back to the video here. Hold on.
I just found this the other day. It's my old book.
Oh, this is your portfolio.
Yeah. Actually, okay, look, some big catalog I did back in the day. That. Yes, it was a trip, dude. That's
hilarious. One more time for the video, Keenan. Show the muscle shot on the beach.
Hold up. hold on.
Oh, this is great.
Right. There you go.
Here we go. Look at those pecs, man.
And there I am dressed. See, was it all just
dressed? Oh, right? You got the look.
Man,
right? You need to take those photos. You got to put them on social. Be like, this is the good old days right here.
They were the good old days, man.
So, I didn't know that. I don't know if you even talk about that. But is that something nobody would know by looking at your social profiles, or is that on there?
No, that's not on my social profile. That was 24 years ago. Why would I talk about that?
There you go. Well, so that's one thing that nobody would know about you by looking at your social profiles. Anything else?
I was adopted by white people in 1968.
That would surprise me. Wait, you were adopted by white people? You mean your parents are white as adopted parents?
Yeah. Dude, process that. Martin Luther King was shot in 1968. It was still against the law for black people and white people to marry in many states. So I want you to think about how progressive that was.
Yeah, I guess so. And especially at that time, 1968. Dang, all right.
Yeah, so, man, you got to slow down and read between the lines in that. That was a big deal. I was if you really want to get crazy, I'm mixed. So I found my birth parents. My mom is white, my dad's black, right? I'm mixed. Do you know how many mixed kids there were growing up in the 70s and 80s?
No.
Not many. Because white and black people weren't hooking up. It's not until now. Like, my kids are mixed now, but they were everywhere in school. But in 60s, like, with the exception of very, very, very rare exceptions before the 60s, black people and white people weren't doing the thing, right? And so not only was I raised by white folks with a white sister and a black brother, but I was a half kid, and there weren't many of us. We were rare. Yeah.
Where did you grow up at?
Boston.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Boston up there, but that might have been obviously more acceptable in Boston than certainly down in the South.
More than certain down south, but Boston is, some people call Boston the South of the North. They had a big busing issue. If you do some of your homework on that, they had massive busing riots when they were going to bust black people into white neighborhoods, and it was an interesting time. Time. But yeah, there you go. No one knows that.
All right, there you go. Those two things that we did not know. So that gives some great color too.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. No pun intended. Let's transition over to Gap Selling, man. It's a best-selling book. It's hot. I've been seeing it all over the place. Had a chance to take a look at some of the information inside there. And one of the reasons why I want to have you on the show. So first off, what is it? Why the heck does it work?
I'm going to start with why it works, and that'll tell you what it is at the same time, right? So what I recognized as through the years of selling and paying attention is that at the end of the day, when we're selling, well, when someone's buying something, they're looking to change. At the center of sales is change. End of discussion. That's at the core. Everything else sits on the periph. Value and relations, all that other crap sits on the periph, right? The center circle is change. And I was like, all right, well, how do people change? Like, what goes on when they change? But when people change or they're looking to change, they have to make a decision to change. So if they have to make a decision, then we have to ask ourselves, well, how do people decide? What influences their decisions? And so what I realized was when people look to decide, three things go on. The first thing that happens is people start evaluating and assessing their current state. They start thinking to themselves like, do I like this current state? What's happening? What's going on? Am I okay with it? Am I not okay with it? And at some point in time, it becomes untenable. They're like, I don't like this. I don't like how long it takes me to do a podcast. I don't like the sound of the podcast. I don't like how my body looks. I don't like the dog I have. I don't freaking know, but they don't like something. It becomes untenable. So what they do next is they say, I wonder what my future could look like if I made a change. And that future becomes the future state, right? And they ask themselves, well, I won't have the dog I have now, but I'll have this one and it doesn't shed. And this one, I can train to go to the bathroom inside because it's a small dog. And this one I can take on a plane. And they start processing those two things, right? And then what they do when they process them is they mash them together. And they evaluate how much different is where I am now to where I want to go. And what's the cost of doing that? In that middle is the gap. Current state, future state, the gap. And the value is in the gap. Too many salespeople sell to the crappy current state and sell to the pain, right? And then other people sell to the future state, which is the pleasure, but no one actually sells to the gap because that's where the value actually sits. And that's what gap selling is all about, helping you teach this understanding that we're going to map our selling methodology to how you actually decide.
So repeat. Current state.
Yep.
Future state, meaning where I want to be or where I hope to be.
Yep.
We take that and say, what's the difference?
Yep.
And that's that gap, that piece right there of how am I going to get from here to there? Is that really more like...
Not how I'm going to get there. What's the difference?
All right.
Not how. It's not a time thing. It's what's the difference. So here's an example I use a lot, but I'll go quick with it. If you have a splitting, nasty, really, really bad migraine headache, you can't see, you can't listen to anything, you're curled up on the couch, and it's Sunday, right? You have nothing to do all day. What would you pay to make that headache go away? $10, $20, maybe $30, $50, right?
Sure, yeah.
Right, but you're not going to pay a couple hundred, you're not going to pay $1,000, right?
Not likely.
No, but if all of a sudden I would have asked some questions and dig in and find out that you had a proposal due on Monday that wasn't completed, and the proposal was for $5 million, and the commission to you was worth $50,000, and that was 60% of your actual quota, so you could actually go to President's Club and you could get into accelerators, would you consider $1,000 now?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the gap. That's the gap. It's not the product. It's not the pain. That's all this stuff we've been taught our whole lives. Sell to the pain and sell the product. No, the product is a pill that makes it go away, and the pain is the headache. But what you're actually buying on is the size of the gap. And if it was a $10 pill, you'd buy it instantly on either one. And if it was $1,000, you wouldn't buy it on one, but you would on the other. It's the gap. I can make the gap bigger and bigger and bigger by understanding your current state and your future state. Right? Your current state isn't just that you have a headache and that you're sitting on the couch, but it's also that you got a proposal due. It's also that you got commissions on the line. It's also that you have President's Club on the line. That's all part of your current state.
Yeah.
You don't get it done, your future state doesn't look too promising.
Yeah. So when you think about in the gap selling, the core of the methodology.
Yep.
This all ties into the core, I would assume.
That is the core.
And that's the difference between what we would talk about as problem-centric selling versus product-centric selling, right?
Yes, because the problem-centric selling, knowing this whole time I'm talking to you, I'm never talking about my pill. Even in my example, I think I said I could solve it. I didn't tell you what it was, right?
Right.
So the whole time I'm trying to understand what's your problem and the impact of that problem to you, your life, your company, whatever. So the more I dig and the more I can understand the problem, diagnose the problem, understand the impact, understand the breadth of the impact, measure the size of the impact, and then turn around and compare that to a desired future state or outcome and what you're not getting, what you won't get, what's going to continue to happen, et cetera, I'm broadening the gap. Now watch what I can do. I can broaden the gap like this even more. Ready? So let's just say you're about to buy for $1,000. And I ask a few more questions, and I say, let me ask you this question. How long have you been getting these migraines? You're like, it's funny you say that. I've only getting them for a couple of months. Really? I said, where does it hurt? You said, does it hurt all over? You go, no, it hurts in one spot, but really, really bad. And I said, do you ever find your motor skills are affected? Like, yeah. Every once in a while, I'll trip down the stairs or I'll go to grab something and I'll miss it. And I'm like, can I take a quick picture? Like, sure. And I take an MRI. Boom, you've got a malignant brain tumor and you're going to die in 6 months. You're going to move even faster now and you're going to pay me even more money.
Right.
Right. And it's all because me as a sales guy didn't just accept what's on the surface, and I'm not trying to sell you my pill or my solution that makes a headache go away. Because if I were doing that, I would have sold you that thing for $10 a little while ago, and it would have kept you from getting a headache, but you wouldn't have, dying from a malignant brain tumor, but you wouldn't have known that, and I would have sold it for $10 instead of $1 million.
Yeah. Without a doubt. And with the example you just gave is something very personalized, right? I've got a problem. I want to get rid of it. This hurts a lot, right? But I don't think it's the same, or maybe it is. You tell me, for customers to be able to openly talk about their business problems. It almost feels like sometimes customers want to hold that close to the vest because they think they know what they want or they're searching.
I can't help you. One of the phrases we have in Gap Selling is you've got to get the customer to let you help them. And you do that by demonstrating credibility. If you don't want to give me information, then F off. I don't have time for you. I tell that to salespeople all the time. Because listen, the reason you would buy anything is to improve your state, to improve your current state.
Yeah.
So why would you prevent me from maximizing that for you? Now, if I'm a salesperson, all I'm doing is talking to you about all the cool features. Well, look, man, you got to buy this because it swivels and it's a gimbal and it's stable and it stretches. Yeah, you have every right to be frustrated and pissed off because I have no idea if you need a gimbal. But if I am able to engage in a conversation where I'm like, listen, do you do a lot of selfies? Do you do a lot of personal content for a blog or a website? And you find, and I don't know what the problem is, you find that the phone doesn't work well enough for you to meet your quality standards. It was a horrible problem, but bear with me. All I need for them to do is say yes. I hate the fact that I can't use my iPhone as much as I'd like. It's like I end up carrying around other crap and blah, blah, and then I got to download it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, then I'll go even deeper and I'll start digging into more of those current states. Where do you take the videos? Do you travel? How many blog followers do you have? How many YouTube followers do you have? Do you do advertisers? See what I'm doing? I'm stretching all of the environment. So if they have advertisers and they have 10 or 100,000 followers, now the impact having crappy videos is even huge. So I keep, the minute they give me these answers, I'm like, look, I can affect that. Let me show you how I can affect that. And they're going to give me those answers because I'm asking credible questions around their business and around the things that frustrate them and the things they don't want to continue to happen. That's how you do it. I do it every day. I teach it every day, and people eat it up because someone's actually invested. You know what, here, you know what I liken it to? Back in the day when you were single, there were two types of guys. The guy that walked up to the girl and started talking about himself. I'm a doctor, and that's my Porsche out there, and my buddies and I are doing this, and I go fishing, right? Yeah. And then there's the guy that starts asking all the questions.
Yeah.
About her, right? And about her friends. Oh, is that your friend? How long have you guys known each other? Since kindergarten? Oh, my God. You guys must have the tightest relationship, right? And just talking about her the whole time. Asking questions about her. And you must be really close to your mom. And did it? Yeah. And girl's like, please take my number, take my number, take my number.
Right?
Same concept.
So interesting you mentioned that if a customer is not willing to really give up what that problem is, then that's probably not a customer that you want to be working with. Yeah. And it reminds me of a recent deal that here at Vingresso that we basically said, you're not a good fit for us. And this was a massive deal. But here's what happened. And I think you'll appreciate this. We had a customer that came to us that had spent a couple $1 million on investing in technology over the course of the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. Over the course of the last 3 years, the technology has been continued to be paid for, but the adoption rate has been less than 25% of the sales force. Mm-hmm. The ability to prove out ROI on this particular technology has been negligible, right? They can't figure it out. 3 years ago, they brought in a sales training organization to teach the digital skill sets to help them. Didn't work. They launched their own program internally. Didn't work. So they came to us and they said, we need help. Fantastic. Why do you need the help? Well, because we're trying to create more sales conversations, increase our win rates, and we know that this is the technology to do it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. What's the problem? Well, we haven't been able to do blah, 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 blah. Right, here are all the issues. All right, got it. Here's how we would solve that particular problem. Right, now we're getting into the problem solving. Yeah, but we don't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
Well, why not? Well, because we want to do it this way, and this is the way we think that it should be done. Okay, well, wait a minute. if you think you should do it this way, then why don't you do it? Well, because we're not sure if it's the right way to do it. Well, wait a minute, hold on. I'm so confused at this, right? So what we end up getting into is no, I don't like doing it your way, even though you're the expert at this. And I'm telling you, I have a problem. I want to do it my way. And I think my way is the better way. And I need you to do it the way I want you to do it. And our answer was, this is $1 million deal. No. You are not a customer for us. We're not interested in working with you unless you follow our way. The response, here's the response from the head of sales. You're hard to do business with. And my answer, if you don't follow what we sell you to do, you're darn right we would be, right? And the reason why is because you have the problem, not me. And I know how to fix that problem. I mean, we could take you to the water, but I can't make you drink. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Absolutely makes sense. Absolutely 100%.
And let me tell you, man, when you talk about like the size of those types of deals, right? To a small business, $1 million deal in terms of sales training business, that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal. It's hard for sales reps to walk away from this. But when salespeople see that the implementation of this program with a customer like that who thinks they're smarter, which they might be smarter, but they obviously haven't been successful, is going to be a nightmare. And the results will be you will have a failed project anyways.
Yes, you just say, no matter what in that circumstance, he's going to say you didn't do a good job. He's going to have something disparaging to say. So you got off the hook with him saying you're difficult to work with. Because if you actually work with him, it wasn't going to be difficult to work with. You guys suck. You ruined our business. You cost, it was going to be a whole bunch of other disparaging remarks that were much, much more painful than you're hard to do business with. Okay, so what? Next.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because it brings up this next question I just wanted to talk to you about was like the likability factor, right? So when you're trying to get a customer on board, do you think it's best accomplished when the customers like you?
It doesn't hurt, but that's not what you shouldn't be focused on likability. This whole idea that people buy from people they like and trust is, okay, trust is critical. I'm taking that piece of trust is critical, but they buy from people they like isn't true. Listen, everybody, listen closely. People buy for value. For value. If you hate Obama, I could get you to buy something from him if the value was there. And if you hate Trump, I could get you to buy. If Trump were going to, all you Trump haters, if Trump was going to sell you right now one of his properties for $50 million, and you know they're worth $400 or $500 million, you'd buy it. If you could afford it, you'd figure out how to buy it. You don't care if he likes you or not, or you like him or not, because the value to you far outweighs any likability issue. Same thing on the other side of the thing. For all you Obama haters who couldn't stand the guy turned around and tried selling you his Chicago home for 50 grand, you're buying it. And you're telling all your friends how you took advantage of them, but you're buying it. It has nothing to do with like. It has everything to do with value. We buy on perceived value, and we're the arbitrators of that perceived value.
Yeah. So interesting that you mentioned that. And this is super important because it goes back to understanding current state, future state, and that gap in between, because that gap in between, those are all the things that need to be solved, right, to be able to get you to where you want to go.
It's the difference. Think about an equation, okay? It can be both qualitative and quantitative, but because it's easier for us to track quantitative.
Sure.
If currently right now you're losing $5 million a year in employee morale inefficiencies, right? Yep. And I got a product that improves employee morale. And by getting on our product, improving employee morale, you could reduce that to 2 million, 1.5 million, right? So the gap is 3.5 million. That's the gap. So what happens actually, you're not buying my product, and you're not buying reduced employee morale, you're buying $3.5 million. That's what you're buying. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what the gap is. The gap is what you don't have in the middle. So it's future state minus current state equals the gap.
But to your point earlier, you have to get to the problem.
Have to. If you don't, people don't do it today and they still sell, but the customer figured it out for themselves. And so you're just an order taker. Like this is the key point, right? If you didn't get to the problem that you had, let's say you were the person with the malignant brain tumor. If I didn't get to that impact of the problem, I probably still might sell you my pill. But you might say, look, Keenan, I only get them once in a while. I don't want it. So maybe next time. So then you're in the pipeline and I call you next time. And you have another one. And then you have 2 in a row. And you're like, okay, I've had 2 in a row. I can't handle this anymore. I'm going to buy. Okay, so you buy. But I had no way of influencing that, did I? I just had to like tell you, you tell me something, I'd call back, we'd talk, you tell me, I'd call back. No influence. But the minute I know the problem, and you're like, I don't know about this, Keenan, I'm not sure I want to buy this pill, maybe it'll go away. I said, listen, Mario, you told me that you want to go on President's Club. You told me that if you can't get this done with this headache, you told me it's worth $5 million. You told me that the accelerators kick in and it's only June, so this could mean an additional 50 to 100K if you continue selling past where you're going to sell based on your pipeline. You told me. I'm confused. Well, you're not buying right now. Now I'm actually influencing the conversation. I'm not just reacting to it, right? I can actually challenge you, like the Challenger sale. Matt Dixon wrote a thing on it. He said it's fresh and provocative. He gets it. We enable the challenge of people to challenge. Because when you get the gap, that I know that's what you're buying, and I can call you out, I can challenge you, I can say, what do you mean the price is too high? What do you mean you want that feature? It's like, well, you don't have this feature. You don't need that feature. You told me, boom, right. Boom, boom, boom. How does that feature have anything to do with that? Right. That's how you become a sales influencer versus an order taker.
Yeah. Asking questions to diagnose a problem or problems, in my opinion, there's somewhat of an art behind this, right? How do you do it? What are some suggestions you have for sellers to be able to really get to that problem or problems?
The first thing I do is, in the book I talk about in the training and stuff, is I talk about something called a PIC, problem identification chart. And it's 3 columns, right? The first column is you're going to list every problem that your product or service solves. And this is one of those blank spaces or those holes that the whole world knew but never really thought about it. Every product you sell, what Vingresso sells, what HP sells, what Ray-Ban sells, they all solve a problem. That's why they created the damn product in the first place, right? Can you argue with that?
Yeah, right.
Right, but somewhere once we create someone says, oh my God, I can't see in the light, and my eyes burn, and someone says, oh, here, look at this, it's sunglasses, it shades it. So all of a sudden, once we create the solution, everybody falls in love with the solution and forgets the problem.
Right.
So what I say is go back to the drawing board and write down all the problems that your product and service sells.
Yeah.
Then in the next column, write down the impact to an organization if that problem exists, right? And do that for all your problems. And then in the last column, write down the root cause. What causes those problems to happen? Because that becomes the conduit to getting to see your solution, right? So being a cheesy example, using the sunglasses or whatever, it's like, well, one of the reasons that happens is the sun reflects off the snow, reflects off the water, reflects off of your car, magnifying the light and making it difficult to drive, making it difficult to see going down the slope, which is impact, which increases your chance of getting an accident, which increases your, see what I've done here? It's a big loop, it all connects. So once you get it all connected, when you start going out, I'm not looking for questions all over the place. I just have to find the problem. So I can frame it really easy. Because I know my customer and I know the problem I solve. So it's, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, do you find that when you're skiing and when you find that when you're going, when you're driving, that your vision's impaired at certain times because the sun's getting in your eyes? Yes. I know these are remedial. People be smart enough to see through this. But then you could tell me more about that. How often do you drive? Like, man, they say yes, now it's diagnosing the problem. How often do you drive? Do you drive with your kids? Do you drive very often? Do you live in Florida? Do you live in Alaska? Like, this all matters. And it's just natural. So now I'm not trying to think of questions. I'm trying to think of information that I want to get. And it just flows. Once you embed yourself in the problems, the impacts, and the root causes, it is 10 times easier to ask the questions.
Yeah. I think the problem is, and I hear this as we talk to salespeople as well, in our trainings, we're always talking about, what's the problem that you solve?
They don't know how to answer it.
And this is most oftentimes the answer. I'm going to use telecom as the example, all right? What's the problem you solve? Oh, well, we provide data networks, secure data networks.
Yes, that's not a problem.
Exactly. Wait a minute.
That's not a problem.
Wait, no. What's the problem? Well, what do you mean? Oh, okay, it's secure data networks to be able to help secure someone's infrastructure.
That's not a problem.
Exactly. It's like, or if you take any industry, and this is what we talk to our sales reps in our training, we say, especially like when we're thinking about rewriting someone's LinkedIn profile headline, right? We talk about being a problem statement. Let me translate it. Let me try it this way. Instead of saying, what's the problem you solve? Maybe another question might be, how do you help? Right? Yep. How do you help? If you can think, how do you help somebody? Now you're talking to the problem statement. right? Which is exactly what you're going off of. And I'll give people an example, and this is people for listening in. Vengresso, if they said, well, who's Vengresso? Or what problem do you solve? Or how do you help? Okay, we help solve 2 problems. Number 1, we help create more sales conversations with more qualified buyers.
Okay, stop. I'm even going to challenge you. Say that again. That is a future state. That is not a problem. A problem cannot live in the future state.
You're right. That is the future state. I'll translate that for you, right? Okay, we help create more sales conversations with more qualified buyers, and we help increase win rates. Now, the next question that we ask, the very next question as part of our sales process is, do you have either one of those 2 problems?
What problem?
Creating more conversations. Creating more conversations for the sales folks.
Okay, so the problem is you help companies who aren't getting enough sales conversations. That's the problem.
And so that's how we back into it, right? So we talk about how we help. Do you have these 2 problems? And then it's affirmation statement, which is, okay, so just to make sure, one of the challenges that you're having on the sales floor is that you're not getting enough conversations to create more appointments, which is not creating enough opportunity, which is not creating enough closed deals down the line. Right?
Yep.
Yes. Got it. Right. Now we back into that because now you've just reiterated that at least 2, if not 3 times. And now they're saying, yes, I do have a problem with creating more conversations. You're right. Oh my God, my sales folks are not able to do these things. And that is ultimately why I'm not increasing the pipeline. Shoot. And then I have another problem on top of that, which is the stuff that I get into the pipeline. Crap, I'm not closing it because my close rates aren't high enough, right? So there's only certain things that we focus on. But my point is if you ask somebody, what problem do you solve? Most sellers
have
no idea what business problem they solve. And I would challenge it one step further for all my sales enablement peeps listening in. Don't be mad at me. But most sales enablement folks who are supposed to provide this content don't provide that either.
Nope. That's how we came up with the pick. I make organizations do that from the very beginning. Here's your pick.
Problem, impact, cause.
Yep. Problem, impact, root cause.
I love it. I love that. Hopefully you trademarked it. Did you trademark it? Put that service mark on pick, baby.
Yes. I mean, just imagine taking that and filling it out and then giving it to all your SDRs.
Yeah.
And then next time it says, what problem do you solve? They know it. They've been sitting it, reading it, dealing in it every day.
And it's almost like it goes back to what we call the elevator pitch, right? Like the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
You got to incorporate the problem that you solve into that elevator pitch. When you talk to somebody that first 15 seconds, maybe max 30 seconds on the phone.
Yes.
If you're sending someone a video, it's 15 seconds. You got 15 seconds of my attention. If you're talking to somebody, maybe 30 seconds. You better right there identify what problem you solve. And if they don't have that problem, guess what? Then you don't have a buyer.
Yep. Truth.
Agree?
I totally agree. Yes. If they don't have the problem or you can't solve the problem, you don't have a buyer.
Do not get Keenan and I in the same room. For those of you listening in, you're probably feeling this passion. Boy, the 2 of us are flinging our hands back and forth. Oh, man, that's good stuff. So think about it like from a sales leadership perspective. If I'm a sales manager, I want to see my salespeople getting to the buyer problem. What's the best place to start?
As a sales leader, you need to be creating a pick or working with marketing or working with product to build the pick. Then you need to educate the team on the pick. Then in the pipeline meetings and in the CRM, and they say a deal is going to close, you're doing deal review, you're doing deal strategy. The very first question you're asking is, what problem are we solving? Very first question. The bad selling is reinforced by bad management. Do you know how many times someone's asked, when I was a salesperson, asked me, what problem are we solving? None. If anything, like, why do they want it? When did they say they were going to buy? But no one asked what the problem is. And then after that, okay, great. So what's the impact of this problem? Managers don't ask that either because the impact is where the win is. It's not the problem by itself. The problem was the headache. The impact is where the win is, right? That's how you broaden the gap. And so you got to ask them what the impact is. And if they don't have it, you send them back out into the trench and say, go get that. And if someone says, what I love it is people say, this deal is going to close by, I don't know, May 31st. What problem are we solving? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Then how do you know it's going to close? Well, what's the impact to the organization because they have this problem? Well, I don't know, or it's really dumb stuff. Well, the impact is they're just not efficient. That's not an impact. You know how many inefficient companies operate just fine every day? Like, why do they care? So I'm like, that's not going to close. It's not going to close. I can tell you that right now. I'm like, why do you say that? They said this. Because you have no clue what the motivation to buy is, and you have no clue of the impact. And so how can you say that? And so 9 out of 10 times it doesn't close, and the other time they got lucky. salespeople are getting nothing but lucky, right? Until they get this stuff.
So is it fair to say, maybe I'm not doing it any justice here, bro, but I'm going to say to a sales rep listening in or to a sales leader listening in, did you pick it?
I'll go with that. Yeah. Did you pick it?
Do you identify the problem? Do you know what the impact is going to be? And the root cause is going to be? Did you pick it?
Yep. I love it. Did you pick it? Yep. I like that. Did you pick it? I like that a lot. The funny reason I never thought about it, you should go with that. The pick should be built for the company, not per deal. Because you already know there's only so many problems you solve. It's not an infinite exercise. However, when you go out to a customer, it is an infinite exercise because the impact to you of having a migraine is different than the next person, because you have a sale to do. That woman is a surgeon. She's got to go to surgery. That person's a school teacher. They got to go to school. That person's a 90-year-old lady in a nursing home. Every situation's different, and you take it out into the world. But from a pick perspective, I only solve so many problems. So I can lay those out up front, educate you to go find those problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of all these different designs in my head, man, but the pick.
The pick is dope.
Sure, bro. You can have a pick on someone's head. Did you pick it?
Did you pick it? Yes. Yeah. Wait, how big is your pick?
How big is your pick? Yeah.
Bro. Oh, better yet, people love my pick.
People love my pick.
Yeah.
All right. We just came up with some of your new slogans right there. How big is your pick? People love my pick. Listen, if people want to go out and get Gap Selling, it's out on Amazon, yeah?
Yeah.
And for those of you that are going to watch
Noble, it's on Barnes & Noble, it's on Amazon, it's in random bookstores or online bookstores all over the place. You can't miss it.
So for those of you that want access to the link, just go out to Amazon, look up Gap Selling by Keenan, Keenan. And of course, we're going to put that link into the show notes as well. And bro, if someone wants to connect with you, get a hold of you, Twitter, LinkedIn, what social network?
LinkedIn is probably the fastest. Just go Keenan. If you put Keenan into Google, I'm about half the page. If you use my first name, Jim Keenan, I think I own the entire page. So I'm not too hard to find.
So that's Keenan.
K-E-E, two E's.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Keenan. And listen, guys, if you reach out to Keenan, especially on LinkedIn, do me a favor. Don't just hit connect. Send him a personalized message and tell him you heard him on Selling with Social here on this particular podcast. And Keenan, my last question for you, man, is your all-time favorite movie. What is it?
Oh, boy. Oh my God, I'm not a huge movie guy, but I guess if I'm still thinking about it this long after, there's some new ones that have come out that I absolutely love, but I suppose if I'm thinking about it this long, it's got to be Dangerous Liaisons.
What is it?
Dangerous Liaisons.
I never heard of it. What is it about?
It's John Malkovich and Glenn Close, and it takes place in Uma Thurman, and it takes place right before the French Revolution. What makes it so powerful, it's some of the smartest writing is different groups are battling each other, you know what I'm saying, but not physically, right? It's all a grab, kind of like a Game of Thrones, but long before Game of Thrones. Like who is out maneuvering the next person, but it is smart writing.
Well, there you have it. That's a new movie on Selling with Social there. So we'll make sure we put that inside the show notes as well. And for all of you listening, and thanks so much for joining my man Keenan. It's been great having you on the show, bro. It's been a long time. I'm glad I waited this long to get you on the show. Congratulations on all the success with Gap Selling. Hey, thanks for listening to the Selling with Social Sales Podcast. Did you enjoy that show? If so, would you do me a huge favor and give the Selling with Social Podcast a rating and review on iTunes? That would be super awesome. Also, if you want to easily find our show, just go to vengreso.com. That's VENGRESO.com and click on podcast. From there, you'll find the Selling with Social podcast. Thanks for listening in. And until the next show, be awesome. Mario Martinez Jr.